So you don't have any teaching assistants. The university is not backing you up. The department head is basically silent publicly about this. So what happens then? And what's it like to go into your department? What's it like to walk through campus?
Oh God, I don't go into my department. I haven't been into my department.
But when you used to, when going through this, presumably you were still having to socialize to some extent on campus.
Yes.
What was that like?
Okay, I want to say that you said that they weren't arguing about the science or my claims. And that is almost completely true. But what is happening in science and what is happening in other fields, and which is happening in the production of science, in what kinds of research gets grants to move forward, what gets published in academic journals, what people are allowed to teach, if it harms the dignity, if the research or the teaching is perceived as harming the dignity of specific groups of people, it won't get published, it won't get taught. And these are, official guidelines from Nature, like the top science journal on the planet. So what I said, which is the truth about sex, because it's perceived as harming the rights of transgender people, which that perception is incorrect. And the way to fight that is to tell the fucking truth. And I'm so obviously adamant about that. You do not win your fight for anybody's rights by lying or producing science that will not last. It will be shown to be false. And then what happens to your cause? Okay. So what I wasn't saying is that sex is on a spectrum, or that it's not really real, or that there are, any number of claims that the scientists are now making in the academic journals. So they're doing that because this is perceived to be the way to help, I believe, the kind of science we need to help these marginalized populations. Okay, so that's the first thing. A couple people did that, but that in the Crimson article, but really it was just personal attacks that what I said was harmful. So what it was like for me was, especially after the second event happened, where this chair of a neighboring, literally right across Divinity Ave, like right across the street from my office, in a whole other department where I had plenty of friends on the faculty and knew a lot of people in that department too, because I'd been there for a long time. So the chair, had sent an email around saying, Carol Hooven over in Human Evolutionary Biology, here's a complaint about her transphobia from this trans woman graduate student who was on their internal DEI committee. So of course, the chair herself, who did eventually apologize for doing this, she told me that she did that because she was scared of not accommodating this trans woman. After that happened, and I knew that hundreds of people had gotten an email saying that I, Carol Hooven, am this horrible transphobe, I worried that people would recognize me and think she's the transphobe who went on Fox News. Maybe people who didn't know me. I had no idea. Of course, maybe I was paranoid, but I wasn't getting the support from my own department. If my chair or my co-director of undergraduate studies, who was the person I worked with most closely, had issued some public statement saying we support her, I think that would have made all the difference in the world. It would have set the stage. But they were not incentivized to do that. And they were getting a huge amount of pressure. And I know this, they were getting a lot of pressure to, quote, do something about me. So I became depressed. I couldn't teach my class. I felt I didn't have any support. I just didn't understand. I had friends turn on me publicly and join the kind of mob online. And this was devastating because I'd given so much. And I started questioning everything, including myself, including who I was supposed to trust, what I was doing at Harvard. Could I stay in my job? And the answer was no, because I had a very bad time emotionally. It's hard to describe, but I went lower than I've ever been in my life for longer. And it ended up being good for me. I made a lot of changes. And one of the changes was I had to leave. I stopped going into the department for a long time because it just hurt so much. And it was just awful. It wasn't my home anymore because it had been my home. This is where I spent most of my time. So I hired an attorney and negotiated a retirement.